Hey everyone, welcome back to I Told My Wife I'm Paying Bills. I'm Slim,
I am black.
and we are back for part one, actually, of our spooky season episode. So we started our podcast like this, in Halloween season with our first Halloween episode. And the only reason why I say the Halloween episode is because our very first episode was an intro. But our next episode was actually on Halloween, and that was called Spooky Season Survival Horrors, you know? And then our season finale was actually our spooky season finale is what we called it, and it was October 23rd of 2023. So, right around the same time, this is our, like I said, we're gonna end up doing another season finale here, but this is just part one of the season finale. And in part one, we're actually going to discuss something I talked about. I want to say it was probably last year, but I do remember talking about this with you before, Black, and then telling you about this because we talked about scary movies and stuff like that. And I talked about all the different stuff I wanted to see in different shows. We talked about the fall of the House of Usher, and in general, we talked about Mike Flanagan shows because we did talk about House on Haunted Hill, and I said I wanted to see Bly Manor, but I did see the fall of House of Usher. Well, recently, Black just watched it. Black actually watched the show and instantly texted us. So, Black, give me your thoughts on what you originally thought, and then we'll kind of dive into it a little bit later because I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about what the show is about and see if you saw some of the different themes in there. So, tell me your thoughts on the Fall of the House of Usher.
Yeah, real quick, mind blowing, mind blowing. There was never a time in that series where I was just on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was it was just mind blowing. You just trying to figure out what was going on, and it was just mind blowing. That's my original thought. I'll keep it at that because I know we're gonna dive into it, but
Of
mind
course.
blowing.
Dude, and like I said, the fact that you texted us right when you finished it, I didn't even know you had been watching it. So, but the fact you
Hmm.
texted us right when you finished it, that's when I was just like, yeah, it's like that. It's like that. So, like I said before, I'm not a big, huge horror fan. I can watch some scary stuff. I kind of like a little bit more of psychological horror, somewhat, but not really. And this is right up my alley because even though does have some very horror-filled, scary moments, this actually is this is a mind freak, and I'm putting it like that because we are a little bit censored here. So, The Fall of House Usher is basically based off of a short story. The original story is the Fall of House Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, one of the greatest writers, one of the greatest like horror writers of all. And it was published in 1839. There's been a couple different actual, other, like, versions of the House Fall of the House of Usher, like, different movies and stuff like that talking about it, based off of the original story, but, it was, published in, a gentleman's magazine originally, and it was included in the Tales of the Grotesque and Arabesque in 1840. So, you know, it's just a different types of it's a gothic fiction, but it's so good because the whole story, the basics of the whole story is the narrator, he arrives at of his childhood friend's house, right? Um, he received a letter from him, and coming to the house, he comes to basically kind of check on him, and he finds like Roger is ill, so he comes in to check on that, and then that's how the story starts off. And you find out his sister was there, his sister got sick and passed away, and all this other stuff like that happened, and all that, right? So keep that in mind because also before I go even further, obviously this is gonna have spoilers, but this show has been out for a year now. Officially, no, not officially a year yet. A year. By the time this comes out, there should be about a year now. So I apologize if you this is spoiled for you, but pause this, watch the show, and come back because this show is so good. The Fall of House of Usher is so good on Netflix. Netflix original. Um, so in the show, it starts out, you find out about the CEO, Roger Usher. He's a CEO of a pharmaceutical company. And in doing this, he does a lot of messed up stuff, and the whole thing starts out, they're at a funeral, and they're at a funeral for one of his kids. Was his kid or is it who was it
It was one of his
that
kids.
was it was one of his kids, okay, yeah. So, yeah, it's at one of his kids' funeral, and you find out more throughout the series, you find out all these different things that's happened. So, the first thing oh, and before I even go into what the first thing and all that is, each episode has moments of Edgar Allan Poe's stories and, like, I say it's poetry. It's not really poetry, but it is poetry, you know what I'm saying? Because it's some of them, like, even there's even one point where he quotes The Raven, and that's one of his most
Mhm.
famous, stories, quote The Raven. He actually quotes parts of the story in the show, and I was freaking out when I saw that. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that." And it's so funny too, 'cause I really like Edgar Allan Poe to the point where I've actually created in my little graveyard, Halloween setup, I have a little Edgar Allan Poe tombstone, and I got a little raven, skeleton raven that sits on top of it, so that's actually good.
Oh,
But anyway,
that's tight. That's tight work.
yeah, when I put it up this year, I'm gonna take a pictures and post it so everyone can see. So, if you hear this, that's what this is about. Anyway, so he's at the funeral, and you actually see he has all these different kids, and all these different kids, he's got a whole bunch of illegitimate kids, and he had, I think, only 1 or 2 legitimate kids. So, do you remember how many, legitimate kids he had?
Yeah, like, I think it was I think you're right, I think it was, like, 2, because he had a daughter and he had a son,
Mhm.
and they had kids. So, yeah, I think he had 2, because everybody else was sorta, like, from estranged mistresses and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. The weirdest one was, like, the son, he was a legitimate kid, but the funeral that he's actually attending is actually for the last 3 of his children, his eldest 3, those were the last ones to die. So,
Mhm.
he had a total of what was it, 6 kids? I think it was 6 or no, it wasn't 6, it was, like, 7 possibly, but
Yeah,
it
he
was
had a lot of 'em.
he had a lot of kids, you know, and each one died in different stories, like, um,
Mhm,
one was a telltale heart, and, she killed her wife, and
mhm,
she when she killed her wife, she tried to put in she was working on a synthetic heart, and she put that
yep,
synthetic heart in her wife to try to get it to work and bring her wife back to life, but her
mhm,
wife was gone. There was one that was killed by the Red Death, and
mm,
what it was is he was a partier or whatever,
yep.
and,
He was like a hedonist.
yeah, and um, when he went into this party, he had this party, for lack of a better term, and I don't know how to censor this or whatever, it was an orgy. He created this massive orgy, and, um, and the whole thing was he was supposed to be like one of those kinda, like, wet parties, whatever, where, like, something
Mhm,
like either foam or water just sprays down on you close to the end of the party.
yep.
Well, he thought he was in a place where there was a water tank, but it wasn't a water tank, and everything rained down on him, and it was acid or sewage, it was some kind of
Yeah,
raw sewage or something.
it was acid.
Yeah,
It was acid,
and it killed
from the
everybody in.
old factory because he had the party in the old factory building that, his father used to own, you
Mhm.
know, and for some odd
Yeah,
reason they condemned it or something like that. They didn't use it anymore, but he chose that particular building to have the party in.
but yeah, so, um, and, um, and tell me, do you remember a couple of ways that the other kids died? Do you remember some of those?
Oh, yeah, I remember every single death. I mean, we already mentioned the acid death from one of the children. Uh,
Mhm,
then you had from the heart, the telltale heart, the other one dies because she I think she does something with her own heart, if I'm not mistaken.
mhm.
And then you got the gold bug. She ended up dying because she actually kills herself trying to get and spoiler alert, just to let you know, there's this lady and she's in every single scenario from the deaths of each of Roderick Usher's children.
Mhm.
She shows up in different type of scenarios. She's there.
Mm.
And, I believe in the one with the acid death with the youngest son, who is his youngest child. She
Yeah.
actually warns him and says, "Do you really wanna have this party? Do you really wanna do this?" And he says, because he's actually, in the bed with her, because she just comes out of nowhere. He's like, "I know everybody at this party, but I don't know you. Who are you?" And it's the Raven, so she's, like, telling him stuff that trying to forewarn him, like, "Do you really wanna do this?" And he says, "Yeah." He just laughs her off and whatnot. He does it anyways, and you see what the result is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so you mentioned the gold bug. Something else, uh, a lot of the titles, like, almost all of them, are names of some of his short stories. The
Yep.
Mask of the Red Death, The
Mhm.
Murders in the, Rue Montague, in the Rue Morgue,
In the
The
room
Black
more yep.
Cat, the Telltale Heart, The Gold Bug, The Pit and the Pendulum, all of
Mhm.
those, and that is just nuts, that is nuts because those people die by way of how someone dies in a story. So,
Yep.
um
That's the crazy part about it. I mean, they do so much, they pay so much homage to Edgar Allan Poe, you know,
mhm,
in the series, obviously, because, it's the it's the, fall of the House of Usher, but I'm just saying, it's just they just throw the rest of his stories on in there, and it's, like, mind-blowing. It's just
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, and it's so crazy. So, um, one of his daughters gets killed by a chimpanzee, basically mauling her to death, and it's crazy because the way it happens, like, and then after it kills her, the chimp is all cool.
No, no, real quick, I gotta ask you, did you see the way the chimp smiled because you
Eh,
know how they did the camera?
dude, it was crazy. It was
It
crazy,
was creepy as hell, the way the chimp smiled after it was crazy. If we could just
yeah.
show
I'm
I've
gonna
just
try.
stopped there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That was really crazy. That was really crazy. But it's so funny because basically, um, and what it is the lady you were talking about who was always there. Her is played by Carla Gugino. I'm saying
Mm,
it so wrong, and she's one of my favorite actresses. I love like a lot of the different things that she played. Um,
mm,
because I believe also too, and I don't want to say this. Uh, yep, she is. Yeah, she's the mom in Spy Kids. So, you know what I'm saying? And she's in so many other things. She's one of those actresses that a lot of people see, they actually see, her and stuff, but a lot of people don't know her name.
mm.
So, it is so funny. But all of these deaths are so crazy and, um, just the different deaths are happening. You find out because Roger Usher and his sister made a deal with her years ago. And I'm not gonna say too much about the deal because I don't wanna spoil everything because this series is so freaking good.
But
It
well,
is so
we
good.
gotta say how the deal happened. But we'll explain that later. But we
Uh-huh.
gotta say it. We gotta say it, Slim. We gotta say it. We gotta say
Okay.
how the deal was made because
Yeah.
that is one of the highlight of that show is how all this developed. But we'll go into it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay. I'll say I'll go into a little bit of how the deal was made because like again, I still just don't want to give too much away because that's so good. But basically, the reason for the deal is because of their boss and his sister feels um his sister feels like they should have been further than what they are in. See, I don't wanna spoil that part because there's a reason why they wanna kill the boss, and
Mhm.
that goes back to a lot more than of that, But that's is really crazy, and something else that's actually pretty cool about it is Mark Hamill plays their
Mhm.
lawyer through
Yeah,
there,
he's a
and
beast.
he's so good in this. This is one
He
of
a
the few
beast.
things that I've seen him play, like, not voice. I've seen him actually live action play, and he is so good in this. as the lawyer, and because throughout the thing, Roger Usher gets sued for different stuff or whatever, and you see like
Mhm.
different times of like what's going on, and because he is a pharmaceutical company, so different suits happen. But dude, he's so good, especially when he's talking to and her name is Carla Gugino. So he's talking to Carla's character, and she's trying to make a deal with him, and dude's like, "Man, I am not making a deal with you. I'm not." It's and that is just hilarious because even when he's what they call the fixer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the
And
fixer
when he
for sure.
comes and he tries to fix that next series, and he comes, he fixes things here and there, whatever, back and forth, all the different stuff, whatever. And he comes to try and take her out, not knowing that she's an entity. That's the only way I'm
Mhm.
gonna put it.
Yeah.
Not knowing she's an entity. He tries to take her out. He even like, does the thing to take her out and wraps her up in the carpet and all that. And that happens, and then she was like, "I just want to see what you're doing," and the way he does that and all that, and it doesn't even surprise him through the whole thing. He's like, it's like an everyday thing for him, and I
Yeah,
was
it kinda
like,
shocks
"Yo."
him at first, 'cause
Yeah,
I'm
he
sorry,
didn't
Chris,
look
I gotta
that
say
shocked.
it.
He looked shocked, but he didn't look
Yeah,
that
yeah,
shocked. He
but no,
played that
but he
very
he
well.
he he was shocked, he was a little shocked at first, but then he calmed down and he was like, "Oh, okay." But it's just what how she did it because at first she was in the body bag, and
Yeah,
then once he makes the call and says, "It's done, come pick up the body." And she's sitting there saying and she's clapping her hands like, "Oh, good job." You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
She said,
No,
"You're beautiful at what you do," and he's looking at her like, "What, you just in the
yeah.
body bag?"
Yeah, 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 that's right, but yeah, that's what I said, I didn't remember him in shocking right away, though, I thought I remember it, but
Yeah,
then again, you're right, he was shocked right away, so
yeah.
but, I do remember him being calm through the whole thing,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
she
he
also
was
makes
calm throughout
sure.
the conversation. He was
Yeah,
calm throughout the conversation because he was one of the ones that didn't fall for the deal or whatnot,
yeah, and that's
and
the
he was
thing,
real
she actually
he
told him
he was
too,
real calm about it. He was gangster about it, I ain't gonna lie.
yeah, she was, she was actually like, it was so funny too because she told him, she was like, "Take this deal or you're going to jail for life." And dude was like,
Mhm.
I'll go to jail. I don't care.
I take that chance.
Take me to jail." But
I take
anyway,
that yeah, yeah, take me to
yeah.
no, but I think what she said, and we'll go into it a little later, but, oh, the Raven,
Mhm.
which is what she's called in the series. She is so deep at what she says. That's why when you say psychological and they had some serious jump scares in that, they have the
Mhm.
perfect mix of both.
Yep.
Because what she says to him, because remember she says she calls him out, she's, "You don't remember me, do you? I was on your traveling circus thing." And she mentioned something that's real deep. She said, "That's the beauty of that's the crazy thing about you humans. Uh all the money in the world, you could fix starvation, homelessness, but you don't. That's what fascinates me about you humans."
Yeah.
That was the sickest that's how you knew, "Oh, yeah, 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 she's some type of supernatural you know?
Yep. Yep. And that just the whole supernatural aspect of that, and she's, like, timeless, like, you see her
Mhm.
coming up in other, like, photos and stuff like that, and, you know, that was just really just wild, dude, and then here she comes, and this is the different scenes that she shows up in, like, okay, so again, like I said, I'm trying to keep this as censored as possible, but, um, one of his children is and her name is Tamerlane. She's actually into, what they call a cut queen fetish. Which
Mhm.
basically
Yep.
is, she pays women, escorts to come in and sleep with her husband, and they have to be a specific they have to look a specific way and be a specific thing, and she basically watches, and she sits there, and at one point, the Raven comes in, and Carla I'm just gonna keep calling her Carla instead of her character's name, but
Mm.
Carla comes in, and, um she's one of those characters, and she was just like, she was like, "Where's our normal girl?" and she's just like, oh,
I
Verna, that's what
remember
it is.
that.
That's her name is. Her character's name is Verna. So I was calling her Raven though, but yeah, Verna. Are you sure it's Verna? I was had to look that. Yeah, but okay, yeah, Verna. That's okay. So, um, that's why I say I feel like that was wrong. I thought Verna was also somebody else, but no, it is Verna. You're right. You're right. My bad. Um, so Verna is her actual name. And they were like, "Yo, where's our normal girl at?" And then she's just like, "Oh, she's out or whatever." But she poses as this character, and that basically like she starts seeing her everywhere, and when she sees her, that kind of causes her to go crazy a little bit too.
Yeah,
Um, Tamerlane is just she's just wild. She's wild, and
yo,
like
she
just
crazy,
the
man.
different things that each one of these characters do. Like even I was trying to hold off on talking about this one, but I can't because his son. Let me see. His son was his name Roderick Jr. Is it
Mhm.
Rod
Yeah.
Jr.? Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Mhm.
His son, Roderick Jr., is so is oh my gosh, he is the worst. He
Yeah.
that the stuff that he did in that just it made my skin crawl. So, Roderick's wife Roderick's wife, right? They're married and they have a daughter, and his wife is she's not exactly happy with the marriage, right? Not exactly happy, Roderick's he's kinda weird. He's trying to actually, um he's trying to actually please his father through most of his life. So he spends all this time trying to please his father and all that, right? This dude ends up finding out, like, his wife let me go back a little bit. His wife, because she's not that happy, she gets an invitation. His brother, his little brother, his younger brother, his name is I'm looking really quick. Um I can't find his little brother's name. Black, do you remember the youngest brother's
I
name?
I don't remember, but I know where you're going
Okay,
because
yeah.
that
So
that kinda set off what happens with the oldest brother and his wife.
right, yeah. So the youngest brother's name is Perry. That's what it is. Youngest
Mhm.
brother Perry holds a let that little orgy, and because he did that, he sees like throughout the whole thing before he even did that, you actually see him looking, and he's actually catching Roderick's wife's eyes a lot, and he's like, "Oh, I can tell this lady's not happy." And he actually kind of flirts with her, messes with her here or there. He gives her an invite to the party. This chick shows up to the party, she's dancing and all that, whatever, and
Crazy.
dude gets her into like kinda gets her into like a room, whatever, and she's like kinda in a position, whatever, right? Well, she's fairly innocent through the whole thing, and she's not actually part of the House Usher. She doesn't have Usher blood in her. So, because of that, you actually see at one point when she's actually in the party, Werner kinda comes up and passes by her or whatever, or just whispers from the corner. I can't remember exactly where she was at. Werner kinda whispers something to her, and it makes her stop and think, and so she kinda, like, gets out of the way a little bit, but not really,
Yep.
because it could have been worse, a lot worse for her. Well, also, when Verna's whispering or whatever happens, whatever, all the security leaves. All these people, basically anyone who was innocent leaves the party. And after that acid dumps, the only person to live out of that acid dump is Roderick's wife.
Mhm, mhm.
And she's like really jacked up, burned beyond recognition,
Yep,
and
yep.
all of that, right? Well, because of that happens, whatever, Roderick has to start taking care of her. And he starts questioning. He was like, "Why was she there?" And the whole
Right.
time, he's questioning, putting it together. Finally, close to the end, he puts it together, and he's just like, "Oh, she was there to actually do some illicit stuff."
Mhm.
And then he just gets he's all thrown about it and all that, and he starts like sniffing cocaine and all this other stuff. She comes home. He tells her like some of the stuff that he does. I don't even want to say because it just like makes my skin crawl. I will
Yeah,
say
yeah.
this
I
one
mean,
thing.
he actually gives her a one of them truth serum type thing. If I'm not
Mm,
mistaken, that they
and yeah,
have, because they own the pharmaceutical company, so they know
hmm yeah,
he used some of the stuff from the pharmaceutical company on her, on his own
yeah,
wife.
yeah, and that was wild. And then he ends up like I will say this: he ends up pulling out her teeth one by one with pliers at
Yeah,
one point.
man. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That
That
was
was some crazy stuff.
that was so freaking crazy. That's why I said like just the stuff that he did was just oh my gosh! It just made it gave me the like made my skin crawl, gave me the heebie-jeebies. It was wild. So anyway, all this happens, um, and they actually have a daughter. The daughter's name is Lenore, which it
Mhm.
goes with the Raven.
Yep.
So that out of all the deaths that happened, that death
That was the
was
saddest one.
that was the
That the
saddest
saddest
one,
one. Mhm.
but it was the less violent one. It was the
Yeah.
least violent one,
Yep.
which was actually good. But that death and through the whole thing, I wasn't even thinking about her until they got to the like close. I think it was either the second to last episode or the last episode. One of the
Yeah.
episodes, basically the episode before she died, right before she died. I'm like, oh wow, all the ushers are gone. And I thought about, I'm like, oh wait, all the ushers aren't gone.
Nope.
And I put it together because I'm like, oh snap. I'm like, please don't kill the baby. And
Yeah.
sure enough, he had to go.
The thing about it is, I can't believe she actually did it. The Raven did it, but once you get to the end and you hear the deal, now you understand why. Because the
Mhm.
Raven tells her that, out of all the job that I have, this is the worst part because some victims don't really deserve to die, and she was
Mhm.
one of them. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's yeah, that was one that was really bad, and all the other ones, I mean, because even, like, one of his sons, Leo, falling to his death from the balcony. Leo, Leo was kind of a bad guy, but not really that bad, but he was still bad. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Each usher had their own bad thing in them
yeah,
about them.
hmm
So, that's why in there they showed reasons why each one that deserved to die. But out of her, she was the most pure-hearted of all of them.
yeah,
Unfortunately,
she,
she still had that Usher
hmm
blood in her.
yeah. She had the Usher blood. Yeah, she had
Yeah.
the Usher blood.
But one of the good things about it though is that came from all of that is that she was able to help get her mother help before she
Yeah,
died.
get her up out of there. Yeah,
And
and
she
she
got
did.
yeah, because her father was torturing her mother, and
hmm
she helped her mother. Um, oh, the father's death. Roderick's death. That one was the pendulum, I believe, right? Um, that's the one where I think he got so high. Yeah, and he falls out right to the
Yeah,
place where yeah.
yeah, because he
So
goes back to that factory, don't he?
mhm,
Because he ordered it to be torn down.
exactly.
So he goes back to the factory and he's asking the construction guys like, what's taking y'all so long? Why isn't this building down? This building should be down.
Right.
Let me go in here and make the final inspections. So he
Mm,
goes in there and who's in there waiting for him? The Raven.
the Raven, yep, Verna,
Yeah.
and it's crazy because she tells him during like when he's like basically stuck there. And and okay, so and that was the thing about it too. The cocaine he takes or whatever it was that he takes, that he thinks he's sniffing cocaine, is actually one of their drugs that paralyzes him.
Mm,
And because of that, he's paralyzed and he's on the floor. And Verna tells him, she's like, "Look, I would have found an easier, quicker death for you, but because
mhm.
you decided to torture your wife, you deserve what you're about to get." And
Yep.
that's when he's basically paralyzed watching as the little blade thing, and I think all it
Yeah.
is a sharp beam or something,
Yeah, it's a
right?
sharp beam.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a sharp beam, but he's watching it go back and forth right before it cuts him in two,
Mm,
and that's just it's just crazy.
mhm.
Yeah. So, like, after that's happening, that's when she calls the police and she, Lenore calls, the police and rescues her mom out of it, but it's it was so wild at just how each person was taken out in such a poetic way that went in line with the stories, you know?
Mm.
And we are jumping around a lot, and that is why I really highly suggest watching this series because it's not too much of a spoiler because each one of them is one of his stories, but it's a spoiler because of how each show is. The black cat that drives Leo crazy, the Telltale Heart, I can't even remember what her name is now. But one of his daughters, his other daughter, Victorian, is her name. When Victorian, she kills her wife, so all she hears is their heart the whole time.
Yep.
The monkey that rips off the other one's face. So there's all these different ones that happen, and all these different deaths that go on is gruesome, but the lead up to it, and you see it, and it happens, and you're just like, yeah, that person deserves it, but jeez.
I know, man. It's just the way she gets them. Like, but I believe what's her name? Tamara Lane, the oldest daughter. She The way she dies, and she goes ballistic and kills herself. Really, I mean,
Yeah.
because the Ravens just taunting her the whole time, and she's just going every single time she sees her. She goes to break some glass, so she's got this mirror on the ceiling of the bed, and she sees him
Mhm.
there. And she goes to do. The way she did it was funny because it's almost like she's doing a dragon punch.
Yeah,
She's
yeah.
back on the
It
bed doing the dragon punch, and she breaks the glass, and the mirror starts falling on her and just cuts her up. Crazy.
Yep, exactly, yes, yeah, and that was really, really crazy, and the whole time all this happened because she was hallucinating,
Mhm,
but,
mhm.
Verna was everywhere, and,
Everywhere.
I mean, she was even seeing videos, like, she saw like, she thought she was getting a blackmail video of her husband with this escort, so
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah, Chris just said Mike Flanagan comes up with some really creative deaths. That is completely true. And other people directed a lot of these. There was a couple people who did direct other than Mike Flanagan. Well, it was only actually one guy who directed. But Mike Flanagan he did all the writing, all the teleplays, except for it looks like one episode he didn't write. Um, but he wrote all the other ones. So the reason why I said this is gonna be part one because I do want us to actually talk about all of Mike Flanagan's other series. He did The Haunting of Bly Manor. He did The Haunting of Hill House. He did I think Midnight Mass is another one he did. And there's another one I just can't think of the name of it right at the moment. But he's done so many different like spooky stuff. He's basically synonymous with spooky season right now. And his wife actually acted in some of this stuff. His wife, who did she play? She played Katie Seagal, I said Katie Seagal, but it's Katie Siegel. Um, she was in one of these. I can't see what her name is, but she acted in a lot of the stuff too. So it's 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 so good, man. And I really think, have you seen any of his other
I saw The Haunted Hill House. Yeah,
Okay, alright,
I
but you
saw
haven't
that
seen
one.
Bly Manor yet?
I haven't seen By My Manor yet.
Okay, okay. So his wife actually plays, Camille. She plays, one of his illegitimate children.
Mm.
So, yeah. Um, I think she's the one that, ends up, getting her face ripped off.
Ooh.
So, yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, uh, I'm gonna try to watch, I'm gonna actually try to watch, Haunting of Bly Manor before the next episode. But, dude, I'm definitely gonna go ahead and try to see this one once again because it was so good. Like, it's so funny too because Haunted of Hill House, I saw it and I was like, "Okay, it's the Haunted of Hill House." It was actually good. It wasn't as scary
Mhm.
as I thought it would be, There's actually like a famous meme where the little girl standing next to the dead body and she like plays like she makes like a little funny face. That's actually from the Haunted Hill House. Um, but nothing. I never wanted to see the Haunted of Hill House again. I never wanted to see a lot of the other ones. I didn't want to rush to see those. As soon
Right.
as I found out about this was out, I had to see this because of its connection to Edgar Allan Poe and how much
Mhm.
I really enjoy just Edgar Allan Poe's works.
Yeah. I
And this
mean,
one is so good that I would actually see like, do you feel that way where you could actually watch this one again, but his other ones you don't really wanna like, you're not even in a rush to actually see it?
and I agree with our producer Chris just put out. I didn't think the Hill House was that scary either.
Mhm.
It
Exactly,
was
yeah.
just gut wrenching,
Yeah.
as our producer would say.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
um, with the fall of the House of Usher, um, that it was so. When I say I binge watched it, I binge watched it. It only took me 3 days to see the whole thing. And I
Yeah.
had to kinda cut it up from one weekend to the next weekend. I said, "Well, I'm not done. I gotta stop watching now, but as soon as Saturday come around, next
Mhm.
Saturday,
Mhm.
I'm gonna tune in again." That's how I've actually gone back and watched The Meeting a couple of times because it was so crazy how this whole thing came to be. And I know
Mhm.
we're not gonna talk about it. I get we're not gonna talk about it, but I just gotta say that the way it happened the way that it happened and how Roderick Usher, the young Roderick Usher was like, she was like, "Well, is it a deal?" She was like, and he was like, it's a good deal." The his sister was like, "It's a good deal." And
Mhm.
he was like, "I would say it's a done deal." And the Raven was like, "So say it."
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
just leans towards her and says it, "You have a deal." And then the Raven looks at his sister and says, "What about you, Cleopatra?" She's like, "You have a." She's like, "Well, I don't have any kids or whatnot." So you know, and I forgot exactly what the Raven yeah, Raven says this. The Raven says, "Oh, yeah, you too, because you both came in together. Because remember, they were twins.
Mhm.
So you came in the
Yeah,
world together, so you
that's
gotta leave
right.
together, you
That's
know?
right.
So when the curtain closes, that's how it's gonna go." She said, what did the Raven say? "I'm a creature of symmetry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when he goes, you go too."
Yep.
And then she was like, "You have a deal."
Yeah.
It was just crazy. I wouldn't say the whole conversation because I remember it like in the back of my head, but like I
Yeah,
said, I
yeah.
ain't gonna go there.
Yeah, yeah. And it is crazy because every one other member had to die first
Mhm.
before, Madeline and Roger. So, that yeah, those were
That's the
the
way it
last
went.
2 yeah.
That was the deal. That was the deal. The Raven said, once the curtain falls, everybody takes a bow together."
Yep.
It's just
Exactly,
crazy. It's
exactly,
crazy,
man.
man, what she said.
Yeah. Yeah, and through the whole thing, so there's a point it gets to a point where the story happens, but you see they basically the whole story is Roderick Usher telling a lawyer, another
Yeah,
lawyer the whole story, and that's where it basically
yeah.
ends at
He was
with
actually the
Roderick.
prosecutor. Yeah,
Mhm.
he was the prosecutor that was, that was going after him, but he could never really get him. And then how he gets him to that house at that last meeting, I'll finally tell you what really happened. Because once he started losing all his kids, he was like, "Well, what the hell? I might as well just tell you exactly. I'll give you a chance to lock me up now because my life over anyway."
Yep,
You know?
yep, he knew it was the done deal, he knew time was up,
Mm,
so he was like, "Look, here's the truth, here's what happened. I'm dying, my whole company's gonna go, whatever, but luckily, Roderick's, son's wife lived, and
mm,
she ended up getting all the money,
yep.
basically, and she created a fund, and she did, everything right in the end, but, man, those all those characters, they were so flawed, and it just showed,
Mhm.
like, they all got what was coming to them, man. It was so good. So, anyway, like I said, we are gonna do a visit of Mike Flanagan's other shows. I think the next episode, we're gonna go for our season finale. We're gonna go ahead and just kind of do an overview of all of them, and just kind of talk about which one we actually prefer. So, Black, you get the time, go ahead and watch what you can. But if
Oh
you
yeah.
can't, don't worry about it. I'm gonna watch The Haunted of Bly Manor. I don't know what the other ones I'm gonna watch though before our next recording, but I'm gonna try and watch whatever I can, and then we can just go ahead and go over it. So, if you're interested, please come back for that episode. I would love to, get your thoughts on that. But I also want to get everyone's thoughts on the fall of the House of Usher, because that is such a good story and it's such a good show that I can't wait to watch it again myself. So yeah. But until then, if you want to contact us, you can email us at toldmywifepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Told My Wife Podcast. You can follow us on Facebook. I Told My Wife I'm Paying Bills. You can also subscribe to our YouTube page at I Told My Wife I'm Paying Bills Podcast. Um, I'm also on TikTok. You can find me on TikTok. I don't post a lot of my stuff on there, but I do post a lot of our content, and I just share the funny videos I find really funny. So um, check me out if you want to find me. I'm at SlimTour78. Uh, Black, you got anything you wanted to say? Any final words about the fall of the House of Usher?
Please check it out. You will not be disappointed. And no, Netflix is not paying me to say this. I'm
Right,
just being
right.
real. Please
Yes,
check it out. You don't know what you're missing.
for sure, and I second that. Check it out because it is such a good series, such a good series. So, but either way, we're gonna go ahead and sign off from here. But until then, I'm Slim,
And I'm black.
and we wanted to say thank you for listening.